At Vivedus, our goal is to disrupt traditional classrooms and foster in schools a culture that nurtures every student's creative, innovative and entrepreneurial capacity. Vivedus aims to transform education globally by providing a vibrant 21st century learning experience, all the while reducing teacher workload. On a web-based, AI-enabled digital platform, Vivedus provides a teaching and learning planner, a teacher professional growth and progression tool, and a cross-school community of practice, and a student learner profile.
What do you see as being the biggest challenges to education at the moment, and how do they impact your work as a teacher? I think a lot of us have the right ideas and know what makes effective teaching and great teaching, but we need the resourcing to get there as well.
The biggest challenge for me at the moment is technology and the future that we're faced with, AI in particular. First thing I'd do would get rid of formal assessment.
If we could have more of a growth mindset about our own selves and our own ability to learn and be creative, then I think that would transform things.
The impact of social media, it breaks down the ability to critically evaluate what they're reading. And so the boundaries between reality and manufactured reality are starting to blur.
I think the misunderstanding of data-informed teaching has become a really big issue. So the idea of making sure that we teach, we assess, which is great, but rather than the analysis of it, looking at it in a statistical way. And in some of the locations in which I've worked, numbers are outweighing what's actually going on in that school.
The first thing that I really want to introduce you to, I suppose, is just, what is Vivedus? It's a learning activation model. So even though we have a platform, it's not an LMS. It's quite different to an LMS. For people in the state system, I think that's one school, you have a great big giant LMS. So it's not an LMS, it's a learning activation model, which means that it's really about adopting potentially a school-wide consistent approach to planning, teaching and learning that just encompasses the way that a school goes about the practice of delivering curriculum to students and engaging students with curriculum whilst fostering and building creative intelligence. What is this thing that Vivedus will do? It's about putting in a sustainable bedrock into your school, and it's not an invisible bedrock, but it's about having something that's really, really sustainable in terms of the way that teachers work with curriculum, the teaching activity, the learning activity, and then what actually is leveraged from that learning activity that helps to sustain this bedrock. It has the impact of, really how imaginative is the school, how imaginative our leadership, and how imaginative is our vision. How do we think about creativity, and how are we addressing those things, and why do we see that that has value? How are we leveraging on that and helping to make that something that is really acknowledged, celebrated and known among our students, so that they are walking away with the confidence or efficacy in their own creative talent and ability, and how they can actually be applying that to everything that they're doing in life. If we're talking about a sustainable bedrock as well, we're overcoming a lot of the barriers that schools have when they introduce entrepreneurial programs or project-based learning or design thinking, and there's always a couple of champions, there's always a couple of people who are really in their comfort zone, sitting in that space and working in that space, but they may not stay forever. They move. They've got a life. They want to try out other things. They might want to be progressing up the pathway of leadership. So, a sustainable practice of putting this in as a bedrock means that regardless of whether you've got an amazing champion or torchbearer that happens to leave or move or get promoted, you've actually still got the bedrock there. It still continues because it's the long game. It is important just to have an understanding of some underpinning theory. Creativity is a really interesting thing to tackle because people often come with their own perceptions of creativity. There is at least 70 or more years of really well-grounded theory, contemporary theory, in creativity. Of course, people have been talking about creativity for eons. Even Aristotle spoke about creativity. But our starting point began in 1950 when a man called J.P. Guilford, who was the president of the American Psychological Association, stood up and endorsed further research into creativity. If you're very good at referencing your assignments, you'd be aware of the APA referencing system. Well, of course, that comes from the American Psychological Association and how you actually acknowledge any kind of scientific research. So 1950, post-war, that sort of next movement of an industrial innovative revolution that was occurring, a technological revolution that really began, the importance of countries beginning to see a global connection in trade being very, very important. So J.P. Guilford astutely saw that creativity formed a really large part of the success of that, and especially for America. So, of course, that means that when research is endorsed on that level, it trickles down into universities, it trickles into government, it trickles into the accessibility of resources and finances to back that. So it's really been from that time that a lot of very, very deep research has happened. Particularly, we're looking at creative theories around the theory of confluence, which is creativity influenced by social and environmental factors. There are a lot of creativities. This is the creativity that we're looking at. So that's the larger umbrella that we're looking at. We're going to go down a little bit from there, but it is one that is influenced by social and environmental factors. Of course, really from the early 2000s, research in and around creativity really began to ramp up, particularly in the UK. It started to spread across the Northern Hemisphere, but particularly in the UK. And there were studies done in and around school-aged creativity and what was that. And there was the development of the theory of possibility thinking by Professor Anna Kraft. You are going to learn a little bit, quite a bit about possibility thinking because that is a part of the actual methodology. It was also in the 2000s, the early part of the 2000s, that a continuum of creative ability was established. So how creative are you? Once you start to look at a continuum of creativity, then of course it doesn't take long to understand that you're going to be measuring it. All right? So there is a continuum of creativity, and we'll talk a little bit more about that continuum. There was also an agreed upon definition for this kind of creativity that we're talking about that we can measure. And that is that creativity is an interaction among aptitude, process, and environment by which an individual or group produces a perceptible product that is both novel and useful as defined within a social context. Sounds like a lot, but basically it's the creativity that has relevance and significance to innovation.
What opportunities will teaching for creative intelligence produce for you as a teacher and for your students? The opportunities that this provides is a very direct link to current curriculum documents, whether it's nationally, at a state level or globally.
If students have creative intelligence, then the possibilities are endless. I feel like constrained by not having it.
I think that the ability to think locally and globally about issues is a really exciting potential for this. I think creative intelligence is about creating things that are not already happening. It's about going beyond, it's using knowledge as a foundation and then expanding on that to see what it is that we can do with it.
The ability to create more authentic teaching and learning experiences for students.
Providing opportunities for deeper learning.
It's going to give me a myriad of activities that I can use that I know are going to get my kids thinking and thinking critically and creatively to produce things that they can be proud of.
What aspects of the Vivedus approach to teaching and learning was the most eye-opening or impactful for you? I would say would be the AI functionality. In this platform, that AI functionality, really powerful.
Putting creativity first.
I would say it's actually the creative intelligences that foregrounds the whole program and software itself, and the ability for us to start to think quite purposefully about the creative intelligences and how we can actually explicitly teach and incorporate that into our everyday practices.
When I first saw the platform of Vivedus, I was really excited by the fact that it's not looking at what's in the curriculum, but it's looking at where can the curriculum take you and your students. And it's that open-endedness, that building skills and creative intelligence along the way. It's all part of the learning.
How will Vivedus enable young people to think creatively, explore and address complex problems like climate change? We need to foster at a young age a growth in creativity.
Vivedus is all about questioning students' ways of thinking as well. With things like climate change, it also is able to join the different KLAs and offer that interdisciplinary structure to see how different contents can be drawn in to help support ideas of complex problems like climate change.
Anything that encourages creative thinkers to become creative problem solvers is good for real world application.
Vivedus provides so many opportunities for students to think critically, think outside the box with the questioning approach that they have, allowing people to move out of that common knowledge and that base level into some of that really higher order thinking to allow students to deepen their understanding.
Using the emotional culture deck, select 2 cards that best describe how you feel about the opportunities teaching for creativity will bring to your classroom and role in the school. Could you explain why these emotions resonate with you? Free, because for me, my role's a bit different to everybody else in that I'm kind of looking after the stewardship bit. and making sure that the teachers are happy, that the kids are happy, that the community's happy, and that it's doing all the things that philosophically we had as our goal, essentially. So for me, the brave part is really encouraging people to take risks and doing things differently to how we've done it in the past.
Open to all of the possibilities. I feel like there's so many different possibilities, and it's exciting to think of where this could go and where the students will go. And supported. I feel like the platform really steps you through everything that's needed.
Curious is going to build engagement with students. And then I've picked uncomfortable, but on the positive aspect, I'm comfortable where I am and with what I teach. So being uncomfortable is going to be able to maybe help me think outside the box and try and think of different ways to engage students through creativity.
I've chosen confident because in order to achieve better student outcomes, and I feel confident with the use of the Vivedus platform, and I also feel energised because this is a platform that brings it all together nice and succinctly and is really easy to use.
Daring that we are challenging the status quo and that we're trying new things.
If you were putting a case forward to a principal or senior leadership team about adopting the Vivedus learning activation model, what would be some of the things you would include in that pitch? The biggest takeaway for me would be that we want the students to be ready for the real world.
I really like the Vivet, so the AI generated helping tool that comes with the Vivedus activation learning model. I think it's able to offer new ideas, really make you think about the different pedagogies as well.
I would definitely mention that Vivedus is a platform that incorporates all aspects of a school environment, from everything through to lesson planning, so unit planning, then through to lesson planning, onto differentiation, an easy way to communicate and for the learning support team to export data around students. Everything is stored in one place and is a really, really easy to use interface.
A big thing for me as an educator, I want students to think for themselves in a creative way, and this model prompts them to do that, to be individual thinkers and push boundaries and kind of take ownership over that different way of thinking.
The value of creative intelligence, it's part as a general capability of the Australian curriculum.
What excited you the most about the platform? The fact that it actually generates ideas and allows you to kind of link across different subjects with a Kara and come up with common ideas that you can use in a real world setting in the classroom is what I'm most excited about.
The artificial intelligence can give me ideas that I never thought were possible.
The real world impact of doing this work in creativity, it takes your thinking, and I can see it taking students well beyond the classroom, well outside the parameters of subjects and assessment and qualifications and structures that hold back thinking, and just enable us to go beyond those, to operate at an interdisciplinary level, to think about big issues, to think about how we use knowledge and expand on it, and how we can do that in ways that can potentially change the world.
The fact that it's not regimented, and the fact that the platform allows for integration and multi-age learning really opens up the opportunities for teachers, and it really fits in with the framework that we're offering.
The research that's based on, it encourages collaboration, it encourages that idea of digging deeper into a topic. The bit that excited me the most was the reduction in the amount of time it would take to look at creating a larger concept, or looking at a larger concept, and then looking at the subsequent challenges that would lead you to that larger concept. Sometimes it also provides you with examples of how you might cater for a learning support or an extension of the same activity.
Vivedus is about inspiring, infusing life and vibrancy, surpassing creativity. Take learning beyond with Vivedus.